And we're here.
Hi, we're here.
Where are we?
We're in our studio, which, as I think most people know, we relocated to the southeast corner of our site, approximately where the farmhouse is going to be. And we are sitting on our plaza area. And what is our plaza area material?
I feel like we're on some really bad children's television show. So now we're going to bring in Mr. Anyway, so we are sitting. So what we decided to do today was we have a special guest on, our good friend Rob Woodman. Rob, you want to introduce yourself? I know you're with Ferguson now. Where did you used to work, and why the hell did we want you to come on and chat with us today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm thrilled to be on it. I've watched some of your previous episodes and never thought would I have the opportunity to be part of one. So this is fantastic. So I'll let you answer why the hell, am I part of this thing with the two of you to answer your question there. But yeah, so I'm Rob Woodman. I'm actually a professional engineer and spent the first 10 years of my career in the civil consulting space, doing a lot of site development projects, commercial, residential, and the like. And then about 10 years ago, jumped over to this crazy world of products and solutions. So innovative technologies, predominantly tied to stormwater management and a variety of other kinds of land development things, from engineered erosion and things like this. And so I was with a company called ACF Environmental that was acquired by Ferguson about 3 years ago. So at that time, I was given the opportunity to lead. Actually, now I'm the director of a green stormwater infrastructure group across the country. And our primary focus is helping civil engineers, landscape architects, municipalities, and developers solve a lot of the tricky challenges they come across in this,
this was a tricky challenge. So as everybody knows, we invite the tricky challenge here. In fact, I think we should just change the name to Tricky Challenge instead of Veridian. So one of our biggest things was with what people generally call roads and what we here call laneways, right? Because we really don't want to think of how you move vehicles around Veridian as roads. We allow vehicles to come in, right? We need to pick up trash. We need people to get their cars in here, come to the Honey Locust Farm Stop. But it's really a neighborhood that's made for people. And one of my favorite things to say is that, like lawyers and engineers love boundaries, but water doesn't give a damn, right? So when we build our existing infrastructure with concrete or asphalt, we totally break with that fractal relationship, that natural pattern of where water wants to go. Mm-hmm. So then we have to hire civil engineers to come in and spend millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars to come in and engineer our way out of a problem that we created. Where if we avoid that veneer of concrete or asphalt and we create a permeable surface, that gives us something that we could create a new opportunity for rainwater management rather than what we call stormwater. Like we talk about this in a really apocalyptic way. Yeah. It's stormwater, and it's just like it's the rain, and it's beneficial, and it's an asset to us if we treat it that way. So
instead of just channeling it into sewers, with infrastructure.
Yeah. So we came up with this. I have a product on my driveway called Ecoraster, which is a German product. And we worked with Rob once we realized that there were some issues with concrete, with the timing of concrete last year. There were shortages post-COVID. There was expenses. There's all kinds of things happening. I'm like, well, damn if I'm going to use concrete if I have to pay the same price for it. So we kind of went back, called Rob, called Ecoraster, and said, what would this cost us? And once we saw that it was cost parity, or eventually, once we make this process more efficient, we think it's going to be less expensive than concrete. Then we started doing the carbon math on this, and we realized that we were talking about if we did all of Veridian, if we were successful in that, it would have been 1 million pounds of CO2 that we would have needed to produce that amount of concrete. And that would have been, I think it was, north of 300 and some odd acres of trees that you would have had to plant to compensate for that amount of carbon. So totally insane. So that's how we got to the Ecoraster.
So we found a product we really wanted to use, and then we had to get the municipality to allow us to use it.
So tell us about that, Sarah.
Well, I mean,
Well,
I think go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to say also,
Challenges
this
all over the
whole
place.
concept around like low impact development and green infrastructure is kind of based around the fact that we've paved paradise and put up a parking lot for years and years and years, and now people are spending ridiculous amounts of money to undo that and try to create more of these nature-based practices, trying to do things and get water to fall and then enter the ground versus having to be sheet flow across pavement, go into drains and things like this. So for me as an engineer, my background, I was thoroughly thrilled to connect with you both because, how cool is it to have a development group that's actually trying to start off on the right foot and from day one actually restore some of that native flow path and not pave paradise, and look at the outcomes we're going to get.
And I think to that point, even when the original plan was to use concrete everywhere, I think, and I wasn't with Thrive at this time, so I'm just you can tell me if I'm wrong, but the design of the neighborhood was very intentional to sort of let the water go where it wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
And there were bioswales designed instead of just channeling things into sewers that more conventional developers would do, maybe gridded roads or like a bunch of cul-de-sacs, and then like create these retention ponds that I'm sure everyone has seen with these fountains in the middle that they're like, oh, look, it's like a feature. And it's like, no, you're forcing this to happen.
It's
and
to mitigate mosquitoes from growing, and the problem we created
yes.
by creating, that's what the fountain is for. It's not there to be actual feature.
Right.
It's actually an engineering tool. And so I think there's a couple of pictures I just pulled up on the screen. I don't know, you can see that, Rob, right?
Just seeing your Google Chrome account right now.
Oh no, really? Oh no.
Maybe the wrong menu. That's fine. But while you pull that up too, I think to maybe get back to where Sarah was a minute ago too. I mean, the permitting journey was one of the biggest challenges here, as the three of us all know, and trying to convince folks that an alternative to asphalt and concrete was going to provide similar or better performance, especially when it comes to long-term maintenance and winter maintenance and all those types of things. Again, that real interesting conundrum of everyone wanting to move in an innovative way, everyone wanted to do this low impact development, as it's often coined, sometimes misused. But then when it comes to a permitting point, there's a regulatory hurdle to actually do something that is different. And obviously we worked together through that process and came out with a really good outcome. But what an interesting journey it was.
Yeah, and we should get into that in just a minute. I think pull up some of the slide deck that we actually presented to the city on some of the spec performances. But here's the Ecoraster. So this is still, you can see some of the gravel over there on the side. This is still not fully completed, but we had an event a few weeks ago. That's the mayor of Ann Arbor right there, and Kim, who owns Urban Rider, our local e-bike store. Anyone needs an e-bike, go see Kim. But you can see this is what it looks like. It's really a much more organic feel to it, and that is 100% permeable. I'll show you a picture in a few minutes, a little video that we did of just pouring water on it and see what happens. And so there is, I forgot how many gallons of storage. I think it's something like 300,000 gallons of potential storage underneath this. So all of the water, when it rains, goes straight in there. There's no puddling, there's no pooling, there's no ice formation in the wintertime.
Percolates out, right?
Right. And then it goes into the ground where it gets filtered rather than going into storm drains. So this is kind of what it looks like close up. And then this is the other cool thing is we can customize it by putting in different colors. So this is what is called brass field or something like that, and local stone, and anyone anywhere in the world can use whatever stone is available, and you can put in different sizes. So this is kind of what our pathways are going to look like. And again, here's a parking lot kind of treatment where cars can drive over it, and here's it unfilled. So over where we're doing construction, we've left it unfilled, which was kind of neat because you noticed the other day when it snowed, we had like 2 inches of snow, but on this road didn't need to be plowed. Yeah. Because it's 2 inches deep anyway, so all the snow went in there. So there was just kind of an advantage during construction to have it unfilled. But eventually we will fill that with this stone here. And again, this is the I forgot what that is. And it's also, again, this is one of our little parking pads. We did have to use concrete in the center roads, and there were some tears shed when we had to pull the trigger and decide that we couldn't do Ecoraster everywhere. And part of that was because of these like storm drains, where we were forced to put our storm drains underneath these roadways, and actually sewer drains is what these are. And because of that, they had to be done with these concrete collars, which created all kinds of problems.
And there's also just so many of them that by the time you would do them all in concrete, and then with the complexities of then having to do the Ecoraster on top of it, I think it was just like, well,
let's just
make our wins where we can, and
and then move on. And and then that this would have been much easier if this could have all been an Ecoraster, and then again used a different color stone here to differentiate the road surface from this.
They even have like little blocks that you can like set into those stones to create, if you're using it for a parking area, to like differentiate between, there's blue ones, there's white ones, there's designate handicap spots. So, and then those, we've all seen parking lots with the paint for the lines, and then the fades over time, and they have to repaint it. Like these blocks they're there. You can move them if you need to.
Right.
We haven't even talked about like the repairability, where everybody's seen like asphalt and concrete cracking, and they look nice for like the day. But they're done.
You want to talk about that, Rob? Some of the repairability of that stuff. I mean, here's a great picture before you start of in the snow, and you can kind of see where car drives over it and just kind of pushes that snow into it, and then when that melts, you get a really what's the just a surface that you can grip onto. So for people with disabilities or anything else, you don't have that same kind of ice formation that you do on that. So
and kudos to you as well, your group. I mean, it's the first project we've worked on where there's been multiple different color stone infills, and just being really creative, your whole design team, about coming up with ways to delineate the crosswalks and all things like that. It's once it's all done and everything's built out, I mean, it's just going to look it's gonna look magic.
And, a lot of that was even Shannon.
I was gonna say we have an amazing landscape architect.
Shannon and Kyle with Insight Design here in Ann Arbor.
And then to speak to the kind of repairability thing, I think all three of us kind of went through this interesting process and the bigger team as well, as we're going through that permitting exercise of this sort of assumption that asphalt and concrete is going to be perfect and unblemished for forevermore. But
keep talking, I got pictures.
Failing to recognize that asphalt cracks, that freeze thaw will affect it over time in these winter climates. And so I think a lot of the discussion was just making sure everything was being looked at on a level playing field. The nice thing about the Ecoraster product is, if a certain area was damaged over time, or if a utility service stub had to be accessed and repaired, you can pull back that area, replace the stone base and put the material back. So you're not going to end up with these trenching and patching and all these things over time. Great photos, Matt, that you had up there. And so I think again, everyone's always scared of something new and something different, and I think a lot of the process was just hearing those concerns, right? And kind of
this is worth noting. All these pictures are taken in front of the Ann Arbor Fire Station and Ann Arbor City Hall, right? So so to pretend that any surface is perfect is really silly. Again, that's right out in front of the fire station.
All I see are trip hazards.
This is another, and again, for people with disabilities, this surface right here, while it is better for water management, it's not great for maintenance and everything else. And this is just a typical permeable paver, again, in the plaza at City Hall here. And you can see, the gaps, the organic matter that gets in there, the clog, all of that stuff.
And I think, on that same, I was just going to say on that same note too, and you were kind of talking about the winter maintenance as well, that probably the thing that folks don't always recognize with permeable surfaces is that, as soon as the sun hits that snow or that whatever's on that surface, it has somewhere to go. As soon as it melts and turns back into water, it can go straight through that surface, versus our common fear around that kind of freeze thaw cycle where you're seeing, ice melt at some point in the day on a regular pavement, but before it gets to a drain or before it leaves, it freezes again. So the amount of winter maintenance, the amount of de-icing and all things that have to happen here, should be significantly reduced also.
Yeah, let me see. I've got a great image of that too. I think right here. Yeah. So this is exactly what you're talking about, how it just kind of minimizes that how when you plow it, it's now all below the surface. So any ice formation and stuff, you still have a grip on this grid. So this was the day that the morning of our hearing, actually, with the city.
It wasn't a hearing.
I went out, hearing
our meeting.
Our meeting with the city, right? It felt like a hearing. And I don't want to knock City of Ann Arbor, and we were grateful to have that meeting, and it was pretty incredible.
It's important to vet new products for sure. I think it's just like how long it took us to even get to the point of, it's all cities have their, right. So we're fighting against, it's one of the things that we're fighting against. It's like there are all these layers of bureaucracy, and like we
just
know
institutional inertia.
Yeah,
right?
like we know we need to make significant changes and things, and especially a city like Ann Arbor that has a really aggressive climate action goals. Like I just expected them to like welcome this type of thing and be like, when can you come? And it just did not.
But then when you get into the code and everything else, and the people who are responsible for that, and they have a responsibility to keep everyone safe and saying, and just make sure. So this is on my sidewalk with just a dusting of snow, and again, this is the city public right of way, right? This is in front of my house, and this is like you can slip, and I have more than one friend who's broken ankles and wrists and everything else. Why can't I go to the next frame here? Got it. Yeah, that's what I'm doing there.
Right.
And then
I think you have to make it do whatever you just. Oh no.
Yeah, that's weird here. So now this is on my driveway. Same day, within minutes of each other. Same shoes. Good point. And you really see the difference on that. And again, this is just kind of
perhaps
this is a grass area too. So my driveway has grass, Ecoraster, and that. So
I just say it was months before I realized that was grass. He always told me like, just park on the grass, and I was like, I'm gonna kill your grass. And I finally realized like, oh no, there's actually Ecoraster.
So this is what our driveway looked like before the Ecoraster.
It's pretty.
And this is what it looked like afterwards. And that's my mom, who obviously has a disability and walks, very stable. There's no dipping or anything in the grass, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
ADA compliant and all that good stuff. Yeah, you want to talk about this, Rob?
Ecoraster paver driveway.
Oh, wait a minute.
Stone on the side. Look at that. You can just sit there all day long.
You're talking about it.
It's going straight into the ground. Back
but I think the point is the water is right there.
Yeah, that's 5 gallons a minute just pouring right onto it.
And the stone doesn't move. And that was like some other concerns that we had, like with stones shifting and like is it okay for fire trucks? And
I think a lot of times
in Belgium, right? Rob, this picture?
It is, yeah. And I think, a lot of times folks, when they hear stone or they hear gravel, they think of this easily ruttable surface, right? That's not stable, that moves over time, that delivers sediment downhill and things like that. And so, yeah, Sarah, to touch on your point, that the grid confines that stone into these individual little pockets, and it kind of interlocks. It's an angular stone of sorts. So you're not seeing a lot of dislodgement. You're not seeing instability. You're not seeing rutting or tire paths through this. And again, I think pictures, speak 1,000 words or whatever the phrase is, right? I think if you were to just go in and say, hey, we want to use a gravel surface, folk would say, absolutely not, right? But it's these photos that show the application, that show vehicles on it, that show fire trucks on it. You can even see those market caps that Sarah was mentioning before there for the parking delineators.
Yeah, and the advantage there is that we don't need paint, right? So you don't have to keep repainting. That stuff lasts forever. So it's just a little plastic clip that clips into the space. And this is exactly what we're doing at Veridian. And again, here's an example of the different color treatments of the surfaces with the stone. I think you referred a little bit to this, Rob, just to the the durability of this stuff and what it can do. So we've had construction trucks all over it. This is a landing strip for NATO, where they're landing cargo planes on it. This is why can't I get this here? Whoops. Yeah, that's a helicopter pad there. Where they're landing helicopters. What else would you land on? Yeah. Here's industrial area where they're driving trucks over it and everything else.
And I was going to actually, it says right there, stone fill is structurally something. I think, Rob, you had made the point in one of the meetings we had with the city that like the gravel, like you don't even need that to be able, like, it doesn't, it's very structurally sound. The feel is more for, I mean, it's not more comfortable to walk on when it's built and bike on. So.
Well, I think you've even used the material.
Like the concrete, everything, we're giving it that lateral torque, twisting, that it being unfilled was a disadvantage. So having it filled definitely is an advantage. So,
but a normal vehicle can drive over it.
Absolutely.
Sure, yeah. And I think, and I was going to say, you all tried that sort of out as well, the ability to use a good chunk of it as temporary access for some of those concrete vehicles. Obviously, you found on some of those heavy turning points, the edge was spoiled some. The bulk of it was, be able to be reused elsewhere. But it's nice to have a surface that, until it's filled with stone, you can still move across that. And I think we saw that in some of the images you had earlier too, with the lifts and things, whatnot, that are helping with the erection of the buildings as well. So very cool.
And more importantly, it's really pretty.
It is really pretty.
It's like people have come by and been like, "That's so cool. What is this?" Do you have those drone footages? You want to pull those up?
Yeah, sure, I can do that.
I think I might even have some pictures. I don't know if I'm able to find them right now, but though of where we actually went through and counted one day, like where we had the concrete trucks like driving off of. We actually laid down some temporary Ecoraster just over mud. So that they could ride over that. So this is really cool. So this is again when
it looks so beautiful unfilled.
I love it unfilled. I think it's got a really nice graphic look to it.
Yeah, and you can see it in that image, with the pallets of material stacked up. So it comes in like 14 square foot pieces that are then a sort of best fit to these shapes, and then the radius are cut and pieces of work to fill those spaces. But a lot of these were from obviously a couple of months ago when I was out there, and most of it unfilled. But it gives you kind of a bit of a window into what you're going to start to see as it continues to build out.
Hey,
obviously,
you've got to send me this this thing. We'll post it on Instagram.
Yeah, we'll do.
So, what else can we say about this stuff?
Hopefully we'll see it more in Ann Arbor as we've paved the way, pun intended, for the use of this type of product over concrete or asphalt. I mean, you look at those pictures of like what happens, and everybody in fix the damn roads, Governor.
Right.
Like this is exactly the type of product where like you're not going to have to be going in and patching, and it's gonna, even if you patch it with a new piece, it looks brand new. Yeah,
this is one of the things, even when we put in our utilities, right, the electrical utilities, we could have very easily just done that under pathways rather than doing it under the center roads. And then you just have this area where you can pick up and easily repair utilities,
and then reuse the piece,
and then reuse the same piece without having to pour new concrete or asphalt or anything else like that. Huge carbon savings, huge benefit for water when it's engineered properly. It's beautiful. Again, there's flaws with this just like everything else, but the flaws are far less, and for carbon and beauty and water, kicks any other material's ass as far as I can tell.
Well, and I would just add as well, I mean, to get back to the city process too, I think that process, while it was time consuming, like Sarah, you mentioned, I think all the questions that were asked challenged us as a team to learn more about the product, learn more about the application, and make sure we all felt comfortable still at the end of that. Okay, do we still feel this is a good solution? And I think as a group we did. And I'm, again, like I said at the beginning, super thankful to the two of you and the rest of the team. On behalf of Ferguson too. I mean, Ferguson is looking to partner with development groups like yours who do genuinely have sustainability goals, and genuine ones, not just kind of greenwashing things for the sake of PR and things like that. So, what a tremendous blessing it's been to us to be able to work with your group and see our goals from a corporate standpoint, from sustainability, actually desired by a group like yours, and then to see everyone kind of link arms and say, okay, how can we work through this and try to come up with a great solution? So
the feeling is mutual.
Yeah, I was gonna say from our standpoint too, like we've worked with Ferguson. We're working with Ferguson for so many things, for so many materials that we're bringing on site, not just the Ecoraster, things that are going in the homes, fixtures, finishes, and Ferguson has been
ABS piping instead of PVC. Like this is a really big deal. Like there's sustainable supply chains. How do you know what is a healthy material? And second, how do you get it and third, like how do you make sure you get it at an affordable price?
Yeah.
And
California prices.
yeah, the California prices rather than, well, we don't distribute that in the Midwest, so it's 10 times the price.
Yeah.
You know, it's great to work with
Ferguson
somebody
helped
to
us find
figure
a
that
way.
out. Right. And get it all right.
Yep.
So guys, thank you so much. Everybody come out to Veridian, come walk on get the Ecoraster under your feet. Rollerblades, that's the disadvantage. I would rather ride on a smooth asphalt surface on a rollerblade than so don't put wheels on your feet and you're all good. But for biking, everything else like that, I think it's great.
Yeah.
And for driving a car over. What else?
I don't know.
I would add that I think at some point, based on seeing your boots sliding across that surface earlier, maybe some kind of a TikTok dances in the future for the three of us out on the Ecoraster at some point.
There you go.
He does know how to TikTok now. So.
That's right. I do have a TikTok account. So everybody follows us on TikTok. I think it's at Matt Grokoff on TikTok.
I don't know what TikTok is.
Or at Veridian at County Farm. Instagram, we're going to post that video that of the aerial footage, of the drone footage that Rob just put up. We'll post that on Instagram. Follow us there. Seriously, y'all, that's the best place to just keep up with stuff. A couple of times a week, we're just posting random things, grammar mistakes and all. You see the last one? Yeah. But all right, guys, thank you so much. Rob, thank you. Great to see you. We miss you. Come back out to Rob really soon. And go blue.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye, guys.